I'd like to welcome everybody to the Haverford Yiddish Culture Festival. My name's Jeff Tecosky-Feldman, and together with my colleagues Sid Perlow and Dan Gillis, we organize this over 20-year-old celebration of Yiddish and Eastern European culture. Last spring, unfortunately, we had to cancel one of our concerts due to the coronavirus epidemic, and we're really lucky to be able to reschedule it here today by Zoom. So I know it's not the same thing as being live and in person, but it is in fact live, and I'm thrilled to be able to share this wonderful program with you. So I'm going to introduce my colleague Sid Perlow.
It's my honor and my pleasure to introduce Dr. Zisl Slepovich. Paulette, my wife, and I have known him for 10 years, mainly through his work at the Workmen's Circle Trip to Yiddish Land program. Most relevant to today's program is one of his many talents. The introduction that Jeff sent around earlier talks about him as a Yiddish teacher, a piano player, a musician, and he has many, many, many talents, and we've experienced many of those talents. He was our Yiddish teacher at Trip to Yiddish Land. We saw him play the piano, the clarinet. We saw him conduct people. But most relevant to today's program is his talent as an ethnomusicologist. Ethnomusicology is how music grows out of our ethnic identity at a particular point in history, and also how it contributes to the survival and the development of that identity. In 2006, Zisl received his PhD in ethnomusicology at the Belarus State Academy of Music. Based on his collection of songs and stories from Jews in Belarus who had survived World War II. He interviewed these people, he recorded their songs, and he heard their stories. Zisl has led groups that have recorded songs and music from Belarus and Lithuania. And the richness of his research and his performance has led to his being invited by Dr. Stephen Naron, director of the Yale University Fortunoff Video Archive, to work on the songs and poems in this archive. Where is Our Homeland is the first product of this work.
Thank you very much, Sid. It's really my pleasure to be back at Haverford College after, I believe, it's been at least 3 years or maybe even 5 years at the Yiddish Culture Festival. And of course, after all the Trip to Yiddish Land programs that you have mentioned, let me just say that this whole project has been going on for 2 years now, and it's called Songs from Testimonies because that's what it is. These are testimonies from the Fortunoff Video Archive for Holocaust testimonies at Yale University. I want now to introduce the director of the archive, Stephen Naron, who will tell the story, the background of this whole project, to kind of give us a bigger context for this. Stephen.
Thanks, Zisl. That's right. So I'm the director of the Video Archive, and this project is called Songs for Testimonies, and it's together with Zisl. We've been pursuing not only a recording of one album, but we have a second recording underway. And we hope that this will become an ongoing program at the Video Archive. You can learn more about all of the songs you're going to hear and other songs on the record by just going to the accompanying website, which is songsfromtestimonies.org. I just want to say a few words about the Video Archive. The Fortunoff Video Archive began taping testimonies in New Haven back in 1979. At that time, it was called the Holocaust Survivors Film Project. And it was a local grassroots effort by survivors and fellow travelers in the New Haven area. It was the brainchild of two people, Dr. Dori Laub, himself a child survivor from Chernowitz, and a psychiatrist and analyst, and Laurel Vlock, a television journalist at Channel 8. They had the support of the New Haven survivor community from the very beginning, particularly William Rosenberg, a survivor from Chenstochov, who would become the president of the Holocaust Survivors Film Project, as well as many, many other members of the Jewish community. The collection, like I said, it started as a grassroots effort in New Haven, but it came to Yale in 1981 thanks to the work of Professor Jeffrey Hartman. Jeffrey was a comparative literature professor at Yale. He also fled Frankfurt on a kinder transport, and most importantly, he began his involvement with the project when his wife, Renee, was recorded. She was one of the first 4 survivors to be recorded by the Holocaust Survivors Film Project in 1979. So Jeffrey brought the collection to Yale. He gave it a permanent home at Sterling Memorial Library. And under his watch as faculty advisor, the collection has grown to an internationally renowned collection that has, over the years, truly influenced the way the Holocaust and the history of the Holocaust is studied, written, and taught. We have more than 4,400 testimonies amassed in the collection, something like 12,000 hours of recorded material in over a dozen different languages, recorded over the last 40 years. And these are truly life stories. Our interview methodology asks survivors to recount their entire life story from their earliest memories to the present. This is very important as we consider it's essential to know, just what life was like before the Holocaust, during the Holocaust, and after as well. And as you can tell from the songs that are going to be presented, that these songs are indeed from different periods, very different periods and locations. They can be interwar songs from the interwar period, wartime songs written in camps and ghettos as well. They were all the songs you're going to hear were either sung or recounted in a number of testimonies. And Zisl and I are going to share some of the excerpts from these original testimonies so that you can grasp the real transformation from the video to the actual performance you're going to hear, as well as get a sense of the richness, just how rich these testimonies are as historical documents. They are, our faculty advisor, current faculty advisor is Timothy Snyder. And he wrote once that testimonies, and this is a quote, are like works of art and have a special ability to cross the membrane between life and death, between past and present. So the singing of songs in a testimony can't happen in a written source, right? It can only happen in a visual source or an audio-visual source like testimonies. And that's why we think this project is so special, and that it brings these relatively unknown songs in some cases out of a larger testimony and reproduces them. So a few more sentences just on how this project became an ongoing program, and that's the result of research by our former postdoctoral scholar Sarah Garabova. She was doing research in the archive and began focusing on a testimony by a survivor from Zenygorodka, Ukraine, Lubov K. And Lubov recounts 4 songs in her testimony, poems and songs, mostly about Nazi occupation of central Ukraine. And we actually had the idea of bringing in a musician and an ethnomusicologist to take these materials in the testimony and perform the songs at a conference that we held in 2018. And that individual was Zisl, who of course is the perfect both musician and ethnomusicologist to tackle a project of this kind. It really seemed very much like an extension of the work he had done in the past. And so we used that as a launching point for the larger project, but it really began with this archival research conducted by our former postdoc, Sarah Garabova. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Zisl, who will walk you through the songs, and if there's any questions at the end, you can address them to me or Zisl, or reach out to the Fortunate Video Archive via our website.
Thank you, Stephen. And one more thing before I started singing. Obviously, the first I want to start with a song with which we opened our record. And by the way, let me show you, it's a real record. There's a vinyl and there's a CD with the same design, beautiful design by Yulia Ruditskaya, my expat from Belarus, a wonderful animation artist and designer. So we called it, the title of this record is "Where Is Our Homeland?" and it is a line from one of the songs that you're going to hear today. The songs, as Stephen has said, are presented in a variety of languages. So although we are here at the Yiddish Culture Festival, not all of them are in Yiddish. They are in all languages that Jews spoke in Eastern Europe, in Central Europe, and Yiddish was just one of them. They're also in Russian, they are in German, they are in Polish, and so on. One of the most captivating and rich testimonies from the perspective, as an ethnographic source, was that by Jack or Itzik M., who was born in Szydłowiec in Poland. Szydłowiec is a small town, as you can imagine. And he was a soldier. He served in Polish army before the war. So some of his songs also come from the army, and they also display the grade of anti-Semitism that he had to experience even before the war. So as Stephen has said, the interviews, the testimonies, they really give us an insight into the entire lives of the survivors before, during, and after the war as a holistic event, not something isolated. I think this is one of the most precious features of these testimonies. So it's all given in context, in system, in the relationship to other events and to their actual lives, survivors' actual lives as human beings. So this is, I hope that this little glimpse, aleko nashmek, as they say in Yiddish, little glimpse into this program will give you that sense. So we start with the Batchen songs. Batchen is a wedding jester profession that was cultivated, was popular. I mean, was really not popular. It was part of a Jewish traditional lifestyle in Central and Eastern Europe from 14th century to the present. And Jack remembers two Batchonim. Batchonim is the plural of a Batchen in his native town of Szydłowiec.
The biggest kick-off in a wedding was the Marshalik. A Marshalik was out of this world. He was the entertainer. He was the announcer of the Rusche Geschenk. They didn't give no money, just presents, verstehe? And he got to entertain them in dates. We had two. One was a religious guy, and the other one was Shahant Weltlich.
Worldly, non-religious, or worldly.
Yeah. The religious guy, he made it in Hasidic. He gave them a Hasidic song, and kavitzen up and no jokes at all. Net gekent them singen in Schmelke sucht der Tate, in seine so tame Watte. Hoch aus dein Vater Jakob dem Alten, in die dein Kass auf mir einhalten. Kann nicht essen, kann nicht schlafen, weil steht, geschrieben in der Teure, also sucht in der Beure, a Idol tut nicht sein allein. A Weib muss man huben, sollen kennen durch später begraben. A Idol tut nicht sein allein.
Papa says to Shmelke, don't be such a numbskull. You have your father Yankel, the Milky Toast. Restrain your anger with him. He can't eat, he can't sleep. For it's written in the Torah, thus speaketh the Creator, a Jew mustn't be alone. He must have a wife who can later bury him. A Jew must not be alone. And I opened with a doina from Moisei Beregovsky's collection. Sie schmelken, sogt der Tate, sei nicht azoi tame warte. Du hast sein Vater Jankel der Meluten, in die dein Kass auf mir einhalten. Kann nicht essen, kann nicht schlafen, weil steht geschrieben in die Teure, so sucht ihm der Beure, a jedel tut nicht sein allein. A Weib mis men Huden, sollen kennen später begruben, a jedel tut nicht sein allein. Geschrieben in die Teure, a so sucht ihm der Beure, a jedel tun ist sein allein. A Weib mis men Huben, soll ihm kennen später begruben, a jedel tun ist sein allein. Ay 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 hey da 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 ram ba pai da 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 oi doi 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 da 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 ay da 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 ay da 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 ay ay tai am bam 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 bam. So Jack really told a compelling story of his life, and as I said, part of that was about his military service in the Polish army, and he told that was really challenging. You know, he took it all in a very positive, very positive way. So military songs, I tried to arrange. So I have to talk a little bit about the method. You know, it's what this project really is to me. You know, it's combing through the archives. It's like meeting these people who I have never met in my life, and you know, I had met hundreds of people. Most obviously Holocaust survivors in Belarus and Lithuania, interviewing them together with my late professor and research partner, Dr. Nina Stepanskaya of blessed memory. So we were doing that kind of work, as Stephen has noted. So this, you know, interviewing people mostly about Jewish music and their lives, but very similar kind of work. So here I didn't have a chance to meet any of the survivors, but I had a chance to kind of touch their stories through these tapes, videotapes, and you know, I could definitely feel what it was about with all this previous experience. So I found to arrange this for the ensemble, for the band, which you can hear on these records. You know, so I had to find. You know, arranging is really framing. It's finding a frame for a piece of art. So I found, in this case, some Polish folk tunes, Polish folk dances, like polka rzeszówka, which kind of gives you a very Derfischer style, you know, the very village style of music making. But the opening one is a kind of village style but urban composed, a Jew in the barrel polka, which was advertised and sold in many copies before the war as Foxtrot. It's not really a foxtrot, but it was called Foxtrot. Żyd w beczce, Jew in the barrel. So this kind of, you know, and the Jews were very well aware of that. Oh yeah, sure, Jew in the barrel, you know. And then it goes, you know, the two songs. The first goes, Zabrali do wojska biednego Żydziaka. A poor little Yid got drafted. He got no bread with butter, just cabbage soup. They gave him a gun loaded with onions and told him to shoot his wife. And then the second song is a more frivolous song. It's not necessarily about the Jews. On a stone sat a gray pigeon. I'd give you a kiss, but don't tell anyone. If you were to tell, I wouldn't feel ashamed that you kissed me, but I wouldn't mind that. There is a wagon going all painted. I will give you a kiss when mother falls asleep. Mother has fallen asleep. The fireplace is dark. The girls gives a kiss and the bed shakes. So that's kind of typical folk song. Zabrali do wojska biednego Żydziaka, nie dali mu bułki z masłem, tylko kapuśniaka. Dali mu karabin cebulą nabity, kazali mu strzelać do swojej kobiety. Siwy gołąbeczek na kamieniu siedział, dałam by ci buzi, żebyś nie powiedział. A jakbyś powiedział, to bym nie wstydziła, żeś mnie pocałował, jam się nie broniłam. Jedzie wóz na przewóz, malowane uśnie, dałam by ci buzi, jak matula uśnie. Matula usnęła, na kominku zgasło, dziewczę buzi dało, aż łóżeczko trzasło. So the next song, also sung by Jack, is Treib de Chvalius, Carry the Waves, Deep River. This is one of the beautiful pre-war songs. Again, you know, Jack mostly remembers songs from the pre-war period, and this is a really amazing testimony, really gives us an in-depth insight.
She is singing like she was standing by the ocean to the waves instead of a letter. She gave the song like that. Treib die Falles tiefer Teich, treib sei über Bergen zu, mein Geliebten von der Weiten, grüß ich tausend Temu. Ich repeat it twice. Die Erzeile im tiefer Teich, von meinem bitteren Schicksal, als mein Leben ist wie ein Triebetuch, ohne Sinn und Strahl. Those two, I remember, but that was the third one, but I can't remember.
And let me, by the way, although I'm performing all these songs alone today, I do want to introduce my colleagues, without whom these arrangements wouldn't come to life as they are. So Sasha Luria is a wonderful Yiddish singer, but also very multilingual singer, and this is one of the main reasons why I invited her to collaborate. She's originally from Riga, Latvia, and we had known each other from our early the teenage. We were teenagers when we met at some festival, Jewish music festival in Moscow. She coming from Riga and me coming from Minsk, Belarus. And she's now based in Berlin, Germany. I'm based in New York City, United States, and we meet all over the world, including Minsk and Riga and New York and New Haven. And she really contributed a lot to this program, and I'm doing my best as a singer, but she really is a versatile singer, and she finds a unique voice for each song, for each arrangement. So like her voice styles are as diverse. By the way, this project is probably, it sets the record. It's the most musically diverse project in my entire life. And you know, I've done many records both as a band leader, as a sideman, in many roles. This is the most musically diverse project for an understandable reason. Of course, people sing their songs from all over Europe and from the 1920s to 1950s, and so that's why. Anyway, Treib dich Wallis, it's kind of a small song, imagine. And Joshua Camp is on the accordion. He was the original band member who came with me to New Haven to play at the 2018 conference. And then we have Dmitry Ishenko on the bass and Craig Udelman who plays on the violin. Treib dich Wallis, Tiferetai. Treib sei über Bergen tu, mein Geliebten von der Weiten, grüß ich tausend Amol. Mein Geliebten von der Weiten, grüß ich tausende Mal. Die erzähl ihm tiefer Teich von mein bitteren Schicksal, als mein Leben ist wie ein Triebertul, ohne Sinn, ohne Strahl. Als mein Leben ist wie ein Triebertul, ohne Sinn, ohne Strahl. Erzähl ihm tiefer Teich von mein bitteren Schicksal, als mein Leben ist wie ein Triebertul, ohne Sinn, ohne Strahl. Als mein Leben ist wie ein Triebertul, ohne Sinn, ohne Strahl. We'll turn to the story of another Polish Jewish survivor, Yitzhak Hay, if you use the Hebrew alphabet, who was born and grew up in Poland, in Warsaw, in Warsaw. So that's very different. Warsaw is a big city. It has very different vibe and very different ways of socialization. So Yitzhak, when the war broke out, he used a lot of the popular pre-war songs to carol for money during the war. So he was ghettoized, but he was able to escape, and he was able to just, as a small boy, he was just roaming the courtyards and singing these popular Warsaw songs. So this also gives us a valuable insight into the Polish history, into the history of Warsaw. Some of these texts, including this one, were not documented. As I had done this research for each of these songs to the best of my abilities, I did find some texts, but not specifically this variant of text. So what musically this song is, It is a Mexican song, Cielito Lindo, which I'm sure most of you know. You know, and how this song ended up being in Poland was by touring bands, singers who came to perform, and so it was originally written by Quirino Mendoza y Cortes in early 20th century, but in Germany and Poland it was sung by Rosita Serrano, known as Chilean Nightingale. So that's how it made to Germany and Poland between the two world wars. And this song has a history in Poland. It has its own story in Polish history. So there's a couple versions, one of which I'm going to sing to you, about smuggling goods to Warsaw. So there was also Great Depression, not only in the United States, but also in Europe and in Warsaw. And people were smuggling food and alcohol to sell for living. And then there was a later wartime version, which Itzhak doesn't sing. Teraz jest wojna I kto nie handluje kto handluje ten żyje. Now it's a wartime, and those who sell, they live. But Itzhak didn't know that version. It was created during the war. He sang the pre-war version, so the Great Depression version. Let me just quickly narrate. Give you the translation. It's crowded on the train, the darkness is cozy, so the fun begins. Someone gets their arms entangled, someone is crushing their eggs, the meat carcasses are under the bench. She gives him a kiss, he lifts up her bosom, and finds 2 pieces of ham, meat carcasses and pork chops, dripping from beneath the heart, and the train is racing like crazy. Oh, Zosha, dear, Warsaw is so near. Everyone will admit living in Warsaw is expensive. For you I'm bringing it all. Aunt Adela and her daughter Fela always quarrel on the road. They'll get on each other's nerves, thinking they will return home today. Oh, Zosha, dear, please join me for the dinner. There will be vodka, wine, whatever you want, and the rest is up to you.
W pociągu jest tłok, przytulnie o zmrok, zaczyna się więc sielanka. W ramiona kto splut, a jajka kto zgniótł, pod ławką jest coś rąbanka. Podała mu ust, on podniósł jej biust, a pod nim 2 balerony. Rąbanka i schab, pod serca kap kap, a pociąg nie jak szalony. O Zosiu ma, Warszawa jest już blisko, więc każdy to przyzna, Warszawie drożyzna, dla ciebie ja wiozę wszystko. Ciocia Adela i córka jej Fela zawsze się w drodze kłócą. Napięte są nerwy i myślą bez przerwy, czy dzisiaj do domu wrócą. O Zosiu ma, zapraszam cię na kolację, będzie wódzia i wino i wszystko co chcesz, a reszta to już jak wiesz. רק לזכור את השירים כל כך הרבה שנים.
לקחו מנגינה מוכרת.
כן, והכניסו את הזה, כן. בהחלט, בהחלט, כן.
I just want to add that this song came back decades later. It was used in the 1946 documentary by Leonard Buczkowski, Zakazane Piosenki, Forbidden Songs. Displayed all these songs of defiance. And then it came back in the early 80s with yet new lyrics in the wake of the martial law imposed by Prime Minister Jaruzelski. It was a military coup d'etat backed by Moscow, something like what's happening now in Belarus these days, 40 years later. And this song with the new lyrics, they became sort of one of the unofficial anthems of the Solidarność, the Solidarity Union, one of the driving forces behind the Polish liberation movement. pociągu jest tłok, przytulnie o zmrok, zaczyna się więc sielanka. W ramiona to splutu, a jajka kto gniótł, pod ławką jest coś rąbanka. Podała mu ust, on podniósł jej biust, a pod nim dwa balerony. Rąbanka i schab, spod serca kap kap, a pociąg mknie jak szalony. O, Zosiu ma, Warszawa jest już blisko, więc każdy co przyzna, w Warszawie drożyzna, do ciebie ja wiozę wszystko. O, Zosiu ma, Warszawa jest już blisko, więc każdy co przyzna, w Warszawie drożyzna, do ciebie ja wiozę wszystko. Ciocia Adela i córka jej Fela zawsze się w drodze kłócą. Napięte są nerwy i myślą bez przerwy, że dzisiaj do domu wrócą. O, Zosiu ma, zapraszam cię na kolację, będzie wódzia i wino i wszystko co chcesz, a dalej to już jak wiesz. O, Zosiu ma, zapraszam cię na kolację, będzie wódzia i wino i wszystko co chcesz, a reszta to już jak wiesz. We have a really rare interview, rare testimony by Itzhak S., who was born and raised in Berlin and was an active member and allegedly a founder, according to his own words, of a Zionist group there, among many Zionist groups. And he sang a song that he says was composed by Akiva Levinsky. Now, Akiva Levinsky, born in 1918, was a prominent Zionist leader who repatriated, moved to the Jewish Palestine early on, in the early 30s. And then he came back to the already Nazi Germany to save his fellow Jews. So he really, this heroic deed. And this song, Kadima, forward. So Kadima is in Hebrew, but that's the only Hebrew word in this song. It's really more of a military march, a solemn march, or an anthem that Yitzhak is remembering, that was sung very much in the aesthetic of German military marches, Nazi marches, or Soviet marches. This was kind of that official, state-sponsored aesthetic of the 1930s. So we should not be really thrown off by that.
אבל אנחנו גם המנון קבענו לנו, וזה היה שיר אשר חובר על ידי עקיבא לוינסקי, שחי היום בקבוצת מעיין צבי, שהיה אחד ממנהיגי תנועת הנוער שלנו עוד בימים הטובים. הוא מוקדם עלה ארצה. זה שיר אומנם בשפה הגרמנית. השיר אומר, קדימה, נצעד קדימה, Kadima, vorwärts, vorwärts im Schritt, wir haben keine Zeit zu verlieren. Wir wissen, wir tragen die Zukunft mit, drum müssen wir vorwärts marschieren. זה הבית הראשון והאחרון. Wir kämpfen für Freiheit, Gleichheit und Recht. Wir kämpfen für Israels Ehre. Wir wollen ein neues, starkes Geschlecht. Wir fordern die jüdische Ehre.
Forward march. We have no time to lose. We know we carry the future with us, so we know we must march on. We fight for freedom, equality, and justice. We fight for the honor of Israel. We want the new strong breed, or as Yitzhak says in his translation, a new generation. A new generation. So we demand Jewish honor. Kadima, vorwärts, vorwärts im Schritt. Wir haben keine Zeit zu verlieren. Wir wissen, wir tragen die Zukunft mit. Drum müssen wir vorwärts marschieren. Wir wissen, wir tragen die Zukunft mit. Drum müssen wir vorwärts marschieren. Wir kämpfen für Freiheit, Gleichheit und Recht. Wir kämpfen für Israels Ehre. Wir wollen ein neues, starkes Geschlecht. Wir fordern die jüdische Ehre. Wir wollen ein neues, starkes Geschlecht. Wir fordern die jüdische Ehre. And now we will turn now to the songs from the testimony by Lubov, with which this testimony, this whole project really started. The testimony was originally researched by the postdoctoral student at the time, Dr. Sarah Garibova. And the two of these four songs, actually, they were originally two songs and two poems that Lubov recounts from her time being at a slave labor camp in Ukraine. And there's a certain really context to this story. She recounts her fellow inmates running to the nearby village for food. She recounts the Ukrainian guard Stepan the Blonde, Stepan Blondin, as she refers to him, who was extremely cruel and who also gave relayed all the information about the prisoners to the Germans, who punished them for anything they did. Typical kind of oppressive behavior of the guards at anywhere, on any concentration camp or slave labor camp. And also these songs recount the sense of loss of their homes, of their homeland, of their families. Most of these songs are in Russian, and it is quite clear and one song is in German, and it's kind of interesting, a broken German with elements of Yiddish. So it's kind of quite clear that these people were very probably native Yiddish speakers who tried to write, to compose. They're very kind of folk poetry. It's not professional poetry. It has a lot of its obvious kavits there, but it's very earnest. It comes from their heart. It helped, like many of the songs really were supporting people in those harshest of conditions. They helped them survive morally. And they were singing with each other as long as they could. So, in dem kleinen Dorf Smilchensee, that's the song written in German, in kind of broken German, and with some elements of Yiddish. And it's telling us, about the story about this song, the women, Jewish women, who are being separated from their children. And they have to go, to the places that are unknown to them. So where is our homeland? Wo ist unsere Heimat? So this line, we chose this line as the title of the album. Where is our homeland? Volume 1 has this title. The second volume, which is now in the works, it's in production, we recorded it, will have a different title. Schrei Herzl Schrei, Cry My Heart Cry. It's also a line from the song, and also like I need to say that from artistic perspective, it's really hard to do these songs, to present these songs, because what you have to do, performing a song on stage or on Zoom or in the record, it's entertainment. It's a form of entertainment. Even if it's edutainment, it's still entertainment. And this is heavy stuff, these are heavy songs. It's hard when you first approach them as a performer. It's hard to hold your tears if you're a human being and you're not made from iron, So you have to really figure it out how to present all this material. I mean, it's okay, all this pre-war material, all these folk songs, it's fine. But the songs that deal, the songs that actually deal with the Holocaust, with the tortures, with separation of families, with death, it's very uneasy to perform them as an act of entertainment. So I'm just giving you this little kind of kitchen insight, but I think it's kind of valuable because it's I think it's a natural question. How do you do that? So anyway, so this is the song, which, by the way, musically it's written very much in the aesthetic of the interwar cabaret, the Berlin kind of Kurt Weill in cabaret. So it's a good question where this came from to Ukraine. Interesting. It could be part of the Galicia, the Austrian Empire heritage. Anyway, so in the small village of Smilchancy, there are unhappy Jews, miserable Jews living in the camp, in the lager. In dem kleinen Dorf in Smilchancy wohnen Juden in dem Lager unglücklich, und die Frauen weinen ohne einen Grund. Wo ist unsere Heimat, wann seien wir zu Haus? In der Stall wie Schweinen leben wir, und wie Hunden hungrig seien wir. Das Kind hat keine Mutter, die Mutter hat kein Kind. Wo ist unsere Heimat, wann seien wir zu Haus? Juden, leidest uns, was von denen wusst kein Mann. Von die Tränen unserem keinen Flussen sein, von dem Blut von unserem kann sein ein Ozean. Von den Tränen unserem keinen Flussen sein, von dem Blut von unserem kann sein ein Ozean. So the next song that I want to present here is the Farewell. And Stephen, if you have that poem, that was a poem, so I had to write music to it in the spirit of the 1930s, 1940s kind of Soviet music, salon music.
Прощай, город наш родимый, прощай, любимая семья, прощайте, матери родные, обождите, прощайте, все хорошие друзья. Идем в дорогу мы слепую, не знаем, что ожидает впредь, но думаем сумную, что нас там ожидает смерть. С горы в долине показались дома неморожа села, и сильно сердце застучалось, и покатилась слеза. Жилищем нашим оказалась свинарня без окон и дверей. Там сильно ветер продувал нас, и мы там зябли до костей. Сначала мы были не привыкши, нам дико показалось все. Тяжелым потом землю рыли и обливались слезой.
Farewell, Our Native City. And by the way, these translations, beautiful translations, were made by Daniel Kahn and Yeva Lobsker. Daniel Kahn is known as a songwriter, as a Yiddishist, as an actor, and he's also a translator. And Yeva Lobsker, who also happens to be his wife. Yeva is a wonderful translator and artist. They both live in Berlin, and they translated this most of the texts, most of the lyrics for this volume 1. So farewell, our native city, farewell, family so dear, farewell, precious mothers, farewell to all our friends. Blindly we walk down the road, not knowing what lies ahead. The ominous thought is growing that awaiting us is death. From the distant mountains, Nemoraj's houses peer out. Heavily the heart begins to pound, and tears begin to fall. What a home we were given! A pig stall without a window or a door. A heavy wind blew right through us and chilled us down to the bones. At first we were not used to it. Such savagery, brutality. With sweat we toiled to till the earth and watered it with tears. Прощай, город наш, родимый, прощай, любимая семья, прощайте, матери родные, прощайте, все хорошие друзья. Идем дорогу мы слепую, но не знаем, что ожидает впредь. Но думаем сумную, что нас там ожидает смерть. С горы в долине показались дома Немоража села, и сель на сердце застучалась, и покатилась слеза. Жилищем нашим оказались свинарня без окон, без дверей. Там сильно ветер продувал нас, и мы там зябли до костей. Сначала мы были не привыкши, нам дико показалось все. Тяжелым потом землю рыли и обливались слезой. Тяжелым потом землю рыли и обливались слезой. И обливались слезой. So with this, I think we have to be coming to the end of this program. But and there are more songs, of course, and there'll be more of them coming out again. For those of you who joined later, we have this record, the LP, and we also have a CD here. Where is our home and songs from testimonies? which you can purchase online at zisl.bandcamp.com. You can also read more about this project on songsfromtestimonies.org. That's shortcut to the Fortunoff Video Archive for Holocaust Testimonies music project mini site. And so there are many songs that, I think thanks to this project, and I really want to thank Stephen, Aaron, and all of the Fortunoff Video Archive for giving me this opportunity to bring the songs to life, and to, in this way, also to pay honor to the people who survived the Holocaust. And a lot of these songs really were never performed, and especially in this context. So I hope that we will continue, and I will at this point I will I want to turn to questions and answers. If we have, can
First of all, I just want to thank you. That was very moving and very interesting. Thank you, Zisl, and certainly thank you, Stephen, for all the amazing work you've done.
Indeed.
I myself have a copy of the CD. I think it's interesting you brought it out on vinyl. Most people under 21 years old don't even know what a CD is anymore, but they know what a vinyl record is. So
now they do. Now they do.
Yeah, now they do. Yeah. Indeed, the music is very moving, but the documentation that comes with the CD, the album, is really, really fascinating. So thank you both for your incredible work. I again want to thank our panelists for this really wonderful, delightful afternoon. Thank you so much again for coming. And thank you, attendees, for coming as well.